What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another adventure here at The Outpost. In today's adventure, we are looking at all of the movies that I watched for the month of February. These are our new release movies, not just movies that were old that I managed to catch. This is strictly to our wide release and streaming movies that were released for the month of February. I managed to catch most of all of them. The only ones I still have yet to see are Marry Me, Dog, I think the Hulu rom-com, I Want You Back with Charlie Day, and then the terrible Black Light, I'm assuming terrible Black Light, of Liam Neeson. But other than that, I managed to catch everything. So, and today we're going to rank all of the movies that I saw in February. We're going to kick this list off with not only the worst movie to come out in February, but to me, might just be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Movie is fucking terrible. And it blows my mind because I feel like I'm in the minority here, because pretty much most of the YouTube community that I watch for movies and DVD collecting and all that stuff were like this movie. Like when they were ranking theirs, for some people it was like their number two. Were we watching the same movie? Like it to me, it must be like for them that literally, like, as long as they see gore and people like being brutally murdered, they're like, this is a good movie. It's not. It's so bad. It's terrible. And even like the kills to me aren't even that interesting or fun. Because it's not there. It looks like there's absolutely no practical effects to it. Like there's a scene where he like just chainsaws a girl in half, and it looks so fucking fake as like the guts come pouring out and everything. It's just like, this just sucks. Like it's one of those things where like it's just like sadomasochistic. It feels like it's like all I'm watching is just people be brutally murdered, but without like I don't need like an award-winning story, but without some semblance of a story or like a character to like latch onto and care about, I'm literally just watching what feels like torture porn. Like it feels very much like the Hostel movies, or just these movies that are just like an exercise in just like gore and like gross kills. Like it's just, I don't know, it's not for me. If that's your thing, cool, more power to you. I'm glad you were able to get some enjoyment out of it. But for me, like, this movie is an absolute dud. Paper thin characters. The only good thing about, the biggest pro I'll give this movie is that it's only 80 minutes. So it just flies right by. So I was like, thank fucking Christ. But paper thin characters. There's not one person in this movie that I liked. Leatherface, it's just like, it's not that great of a villain. And even the movie's best set piece, which is when he gets on the bus full of all of the townspeople and he just murders and massacres every single one of them. It's just like, I'm just bored. I don't care. It's not interesting. It's not fun. Just like, okay, cool. He's just cleaving through everybody and chainsawing them. Cool. Like, there's just, I don't know. It is a huge misfire for me. And easily the worst movie of February for me. Up next is a movie that I knew it would be stupid, but I was hoping that it would be good stupid, like the type of fun stupid where you just turn your brain off and just laugh for like an hour and a half, and then realize we were in way over our heads when it wasn't an hour and a half. It was actually a 2-hour movie, and it just was brutal at that point. And that's Studio 666. The movie from Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters, where they rent out a haunted house to record their latest record, and Dave Grohl gets taken over by a demon, and in his quest to write the perfect song, begins murdering all of his bandmates. It's a movie that in the trailer and like on paper sounds like a slam fucking dunk. Like, absolutely, that sounds hilarious. But I feel like they made all the wrong moves in executing it. Because it's way too long. There's no reason for that movie to clock in at almost 2 hours. I think it's like an hour and 49 minutes. It's way too fucking long. And there's some spots that take itself way too seriously for a movie like this. Like, this movie should be as silly as possible in every single fucking scene. And it's not. It's one of those ones where it's like kind of funny in the beginning, and you're like, okay, like this might work out. And then about 20, 25 minutes in, you realize, oh no, this is going to be rough. And it was really rough. But the pros, Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters, surprisingly carry it pretty well. Like, it's one of those ones where you're like, this could either be really bad because none of them can act worth a shit. But surprisingly, like, they're not amazing. None of them are amazing, but for the type of movie they were making, they are perfectly fine for pulling it off. It's just a shame that they didn't get to go as balls to the wall silly as they should have been. Like, this is a movie that should have been just like 90 minutes, chock full of as many silly musical cameos as you could fit into this and just be absurd the entire way. Like, how is Tenacious D not in this movie? Blows my mind. The best part of the movie is the one musical cameo that they do get. So spoiler alert for you, which, I mean, nobody's going to see it, so you don't care. But Dave Grohl is having writer's block. He can't write any music. He's like, oh, the best songs I've already written, I can't come up with anything. So he's just fiddling at the keyboards, and he starts singing Hello, the famous song by Lionel Richie. And then out of nowhere, Lionel Richie shows up, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing, Dave? That's my song. I like that song. Get your own song. And just starts shitting on Dave for trying to steal Lionel Richie's song. And it's hilarious because they play it like you don't even know if he was really there or not, or if it was just like a manifestation in his mind. Like, it's that moment came early on too, where you were like, oh, okay, like, we're gonna get a lot of good musical cameos, so this is gonna be hilarious. And then there weren't any more, and it was rough. It was rough. I will give another pro to the visual effects. The visual effects are probably the best part about the movie. The demons look really good. There's a scene where Dave like wakes up in bed and there's just like all this smog and smoke around his bed to make it look like he's in like this ethereal plane, and you see the demons as lightning shoots off. It is a really good fucking effect, and it looks like practically done too. Like, there's a lot. This movie, it's insane that this movie that the Foo Fighters got approved to make has better practical effects than fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's absurd. But yeah, that's Studio 666. It's rough. It has its moments, but it is fucking rough. Up next at number 6 is the Hulu released thriller movie No Exit. It is about a young girl who is a recovering addict who breaks out of rehab so that she could race to go be by her mom's side because her mom is dying in a hospital. But along the way, she gets stuck in a snowstorm and has to spend the night in this like community center with some other people to ride out the storm. And it's there that she finds a van that has a kid tied up in the back, thus revealing that somebody in this community center has kidnapped a child. It's a pretty interesting setup. From reading that plot line, I was like, I am fucking in. That sounds pretty good. Let's go. But this is another movie that it's like, it's good on paper. The execution is not great because until about halfway through the movie, when shit starts like really going down, it's super boring. Like, it's just not that thrilling, and it doesn't really keep you on the edge of your seat or pulled in and invested. Like, I almost got to the point where I was like, I'm giving this another 10 minutes, and if it doesn't get better, I'm turning it off because I just, it's not enough time in the world anymore. Like, I'll just read the rest of what happens. But then like it finally got to that point where we get the reveal not only of who kidnapped her, but his accomplices, and it throws the whole thing on its side, and we get a couple of neat little action scenes. And the girl, I'll give it to the girl. I do points for this movie in the pro section is that the girl goes through hell. There's nothing I hate more in a movie than, and not just, this doesn't just apply just to just women, but men too. Anyone who's your main character, if they don't suffer to achieve what they want in this movie, then it's a failure. Like, they need to fucking suffer. Think of all the best action or just any best characters that have to go through a really bad ordeal, like Indiana Jones, Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, Sarah Connor, Ethan Hunt. Like, they just get this shit kicked out of them the entire movie, but they keep going. They absolutely suffer to achieve their goal. And that's what happens with this girl in this movie. She's fucking in no way equipped to attack or beat anybody up in any of this. So she has to use her wits, and she just takes beating after beating. So that is a huge pro for me, because I'm going to save it for later, because we're going to come to another movie where I'm really going to complain about this. This was a huge up for me that they took the time to make it believable and to make her use her ingenuity to come out on top. So that's a huge pro. So it's a neat little thriller. It's not great. It's perfect for like a streaming service. Like that was a perfectly made movie for Hulu to come out. And it sits comfortably here at number 6. Kicking us off in the top 5 is the movie Kimmy. It was released on HBO Max with Zoe Kravitz. It's fine. It's very much like No Exit. Like they're very like on the even plane for me, where they're just like kind of like these thriller movies that are very self-contained. But they're just like there's nothing new added to this movie that made it worth being like existing. You know, like there was nothing truly unique to it, other than the fact that they said it during COVID. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I'll say it a million times. Do not make COVID movies. I want to pretend in my movies, when I go see a movie, I don't want COVID to ever exist. I don't want to see people wearing masks. I don't want to see people dealing with COVID. I don't need that shit. Well, I lived through that. I lived 3 years, going on 3 years of this shit now. We don't need it in our movies. Just pretend COVID never happened in cinema. Please, just stop doing it. I hate it every time. So that's a huge down for me in this movie. The second, like, it was like she was afraid to go outside, and then they show people outside. You saw like a few people wearing masks, and then they start talking about COVID, and she's like washing. I was like, ah. So that's a huge down for me. The plus side though is it's a short runtime, so the movie it snaps by. Zoe Kravitz is great as always. She is a phenomenal actress. I will always be a big fan of hers. David Coep, writer, love David Coep. This is definitely one of his lower tier efforts. I actually want him to keep making books. He wrote a book a few years ago that he put out, which was fucking awesome. And I was hoping that he was done doing movies and was just going to start putting books out. But now here he is back with a movie again. I mean, it's fine. It's great, but it's nothing. There's nothing unique to the formula. It's a very derivative and by the numbers thriller that you've seen 100, 1,000 times other places, done better in other places as well. So it's just there. It's not the worst movie. It's not the best movie. It's just a movie you've seen. Number 4 is the movie Uncharted, which makes it to this spot simply because everything else before it was just really not good. This movie is so insanely disappointing to me, where I told you before that I was going to complain about your overpowered main characters. This is the movie where we're going to really get into it. I'm going to start with the pros simply because the cons I could go on for fucking ever about. The pros, Tom Holland's the man. I get why they put him as Nathan Drake. Like, obviously you want a young guy. You want a young bankable star. Tom Holland checks all those boxes. And if you want to make a franchise out of this and have this going for a while, of course you want a young dude. You don't want to get like a mid-30s type Nathan Drake dude who by the time you hit the third movie, he's into his 40s and it's time to like recast him because he can't keep doing this for too long. Because not everybody's Tom Cruise. They can't be doing fucking action until they're like mid-50s. So it makes sense that you would get a young star and do it as a younger Nathan Drake to really build this franchise. That I'm totally cool with. That doesn't really bother me because Tom Holland, he's pretty solid. And whatever faults I have with his character in the movie, I don't blame on him. It's down to the writing of the character. That's where that fault arises for him. But him alone as Nathan Drake was a really good idea on their part. I think he does very well with what they gave him. He makes the best he can out of it, and I think he's a good Nathan Drake to continue on. The other pro I'll give them is the 2 action scenes. Is the cargo plane one is pretty neat. It has a caveat. I like the cargo plane scene. I think it's really fun and inventive. I don't like the portion of the cargo plane scene where he's jumping from crate to crate to make it back to the cargo plane, because it hits so many levels of uncanny valley where it's like the human body just doesn't bend like that to do that, that it completely like takes me out and ruins it. Or it's just like, come the fuck on. Like, this isn't hard to do. Like, Like, it really bothers me that some people just use CGI as carte blanche to just do anything they fucking want and not give a shit about physics anymore. It's like, I'm not saying that like I need like it to be absolutely within the real world mechanics of physics, but you can't go so far in the other direction that the human body is doing like 15-foot jumps at different angles as a plane is flying, but also still like, it's just like, it doesn't happen. Like the second he'd jump off to reach to the next one, he would just fly away. It bothers me so much with shit like that. But the rest of the cargo plane scene is pretty solid. And then I'll give them the scene at the end also with the two pirate ships that are being flown out, and they're just hitting each other and everyone's like fighting alongside of it. It's very Pirates of the Caribbean-esque. It's very fun. That is a perfect, unique action set piece for this movie. And that's a perfect way for them to pay homage to Indiana Jones and the stuff that came before it. You know what isn't a good way of paying homage to Indiana Jones? Mentioning Indiana Jones in your movie. I can't stand movies these days that just continuously have to call back to these old movies. Like Uncharted did it, Red Notice did it. Just every movie that wants to be an adventure movie just can't help themselves. Like in the scene where Tom Holland is just like, to the one girl, just like, what made you want to be Indiana Jones? I groaned so loudly in the theater. It's like, just fucking stop. You don't need to do that. Or also later on, where he sees a nun and he's just like, nuns. Why does it always have to be nuns? It's just like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't know how they got him to sit. Like, if I was him and they gave me that line, I would be like, you can fire me because I'm not saying that fucking line. That's the dumbest fucking line I've ever heard in my life. It is so fucking stupid and such a disrespectful way to pay homage to Indiana Jones. Whereas those two set pieces that are just fun, unique adventure set pieces, that's how you pay homage to Indiana Jones. You're paying homage to the fun stuff that you grew up on before you, and you're adding to it. That's what Indiana Jones did. They didn't just make, it's not like India at one point was just like, hey, yeah, remember the Sahara movie from the serials in the 30s? That's what I wanted to do. Like, no, they just made a fun adventure movie that was paying homage to the serials that they grew up on. That's how you do that. Stop fucking making reference to all these fucking movies like that. This is not the place to do that. Besides those two things, there's nothing good about this movie. It's derivative. It's fucking exhausting. The fact that it takes forever to get to a set piece is ridiculous. The opening of the movie is horrible. Like, they opened it on the wrong scene. There's no reason to start with the cargo plane scene, show half of it, and then cut all the way into the past, and then come back up and show the entire cargo plane scene again. It's so dumb. There's absolutely no reason for it. The flashback scene too, with Tom Holland as a kid with his brother, is exhausting. And then we cut to open with Tom Holland. Like, why not open it with him being an adventurer again? Like, maybe he's not a big time adventure treasure seeker, but he's at least, he's slowly rising up the ranks. Because I don't know who thought it would be a good idea to open it up with Tom Holland just working in a bar, robbing people. Like, it's like, oh, okay, so he's just an asshole. Like, that's a bold choice, but all right, let's go with it. That's, I guess, sure. Like, it's such a weird thing to be like, all right, we're gonna open it, our main character's a douchebag. But it's not even like they have a cathartic arc to it where it's like, okay, he's a douchebag in the beginning, but he's gonna learn to grow and become a better person by the end. Like, no, he's just a douche who steals from people, and then we never bring it up again once he goes on the journey. It's like, all right. Mark Wahlberg, terribly cast. He's just not right for this part. It is fucking brutal. Also, the other girl that joins in on them, while she's good for the parts that she's in, completely sits out the end of the movie. It's like they just completely forgot that they had to do something with her, so they were just like, let's send her off on the wrong coordinates, and then she just never comes back. And everyone's like, genius, let's do that. It's so dumb. But now we're going to get to that big complaint part where I talk about, you want to talk about main characters where it should be believable fight scenes, believable action, believable ingenuity to win said fight scenes. There is none of that in this movie. Because they want me to believe in this movie that our main bad chick, a girl who looks like she's maybe weighs 100 pounds soaking wet, not only can go toe-to-toe with Mark Wahlberg, but beats the crap out of him in one scene where they have a fight scene in there. And it's like, are you on drugs? Like, they go punch for punch, and she almost wins it. And it's not even like she loses it by getting like really beat up. He just throws her into a window that shatters, and then he takes off. But like, she goes toe to fucking toe with him, and it's like bullshit. Like, no, she doesn't. Mark Wahlberg is ginormous. That man, like, she would go up, like, go to, like, take him down. He would just hold her up and just knock her out cold with one punch. Like, you see the size of his biceps? Like, there is not a shot in hell in any world that woman can go toe to toe in just a fist fight with Mark Wahlberg, and it would be equal at all. It would be a 3-second fight scene, and it's him knocking her out cold. It's so mind-numbingly dull and just reeks of just checking the box where it's just like, woman is strong. Okay, why is she strong? Because women's strong. It's just like, yeah, right, I guess. Like even set, like, it just makes me so mad. Especially because, like, all you have to do is it's just little tweaks, and that scene would work better. Like, they never meant, all they say is that she's a treasure hunter. Never say she has any type of martial arts training or anything. She's just a treasure hunter who can go toe to toe with Mark Wahlberg, who's fucking ginormous. Never tries to use any weapons or anything to get a foothold on him like you normally should. Just goes toe to toe with him, and it's totally cool. And it just makes so much sense. It's like, it's so dumb. It's just like, yes, I get it. You want to make strong women characters. I want you to make strong women characters. I like strong women characters. Sarah Connor is one of my favorite characters ever put on film. But you know what they did with Sarah Connor? They took the time to build her into a strong character. Like the first Terminator movie, she spends that entire movie running for her life because she is so in over her head and weak that she knows that if she even stands to fight this guy, she is fucking dead. And what does she do at the end of that movie? Knows that she's got to start getting fucking strong or she is going to die quickly. And then we even see her in the second Terminator movie. She is strong as shit now. She's in a psych ward, but she's just using it to fucking pump iron and shit. This woman is hard as fucking nails. And she still spends the entire movie getting the shit kicked out of her. But you know what makes her so great and endearing to all of us? Is that every time they knock her down, she keeps getting back up. She keeps going. That there is nothing they could throw at her that is going to stop her moral fiber of accomplishing this mission. That is a strong female character. Not woman shows up. She's a treasure hunter. She's strong. Why is she strong? Because she's strong. She can fight Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, okay, I guess, sure. Why not? Whatever. It's so bad. It's so fucking stupidly brutal. I hated it. Watching that scene, I was just like, and I'm done. That was the point in the movie where I was officially like, I can't stand this movie. Like, this movie's fucking brutal now. It grinds my fucking gears. Like, it's just give her something. Just give her anything to make it seem like she has a toehold up in that fight. Give her a weapon. The whole movie, she has this like little like knife that attaches to her finger that she uses all the time to threaten people, but then she doesn't use it at all to fight Mark Wahlberg. That makes no fucking sense. Like, take a look at a TV show that just came out, Reacher. Like, the Reacher show just came out on, I think it was Amazon Prime. And he's fucking ginormous. He's the biggest fucking dude in the world. Like, it's insane how fucking big this guy is. And that's a tough thing how you're going to show in that show. How is anybody going to fight this guy? I can't realistically see anyone who can go toe-to-toe with this dude. And you know how they get around that? One dude that he fights him by using his speed to stay around him and uses a fucking crowbar to bash his face in repeatedly. Like, that's smart. That is a smart character doing smart things. So, like, why couldn't this girl do that? All you had to do, that would take 30 seconds when we first meet her, slip it in somewhere that she's got some sort of martial arts training. So we know that she's got speed and reflexes. And then have her use her knife that as she's slipping around Mark Wahlberg, she's slicing little spots at him that is making him slower. Like, right there. It's so easy. I just solved it for you. I gotta stop. I'll go on. This will become an hour-long video where I just shit on Uncharted for the entire time because it just makes me so mad. So we gotta stop. We're moving on. That's it. I'm done. Taking the number 3 spot is the Roland Emmerich disaster movie, Moonfall. This is a wild movie. It's not a great movie, not by any means, but it is a goddamn thrill ride. And that's what Roland Emmerich gives you, man. He knows what you want. He knows that you're just here to see some shit blow up and for some wild-ass set pieces. And he's there for you, and he gives it to you. So He just fucking crushes it on that front. The movie takes a little while to get going. It is pretty slow in the beginning, up until about like the halfway point where they finally take off into space against this like gravity tsunami. It's pretty slow. It has its moments. It's not so much boring. Like, it's still moving fast enough and you're interested enough that it's not like taking you out of it, but it really doesn't kick into high gear until they go off into space. And then it's just an absolute fucking wild ride. The third act twist is fucking hilariously insane. They just go for broke. And I respect the hell out of them for doing something different and just going for broke and making the most wild piece of entertainment they could think to make right now. That's a movie that I feel bad. It should have done better, simply because that's a perfect movie that I think people could use right now. Like, right now, people need movies that they can just turn their brains off and just ignore what's going on in the real world right now. The real world is so full of shit right now that I need Patrick Wilson and Halle Berry taking off in a spaceship against a gravity wave that is coming to kill them, so that they can go off into space to reset the moon back into its alignment before the alien entity that's trying to destroy the moon and human civilization can win. That's what people need right now. We need it. It's great. Go see it. Go watch Moonfall when it comes out on Blu-ray and 4K and streaming and all that stuff. It's worth it. You'll enjoy it. It's a fun night out. You'll be fine. Now we're hitting into our top two, these are the only two movies that were actually good to come out, I feel like, in the month of February. Then again, I haven't seen Dog or Marry Me or any of those, so I can't speak to those ones. But of the things that I've seen, these are the two movies that I would actually say were good, and that I would watch again. Number two is Death on the Nile. It is the latest Agatha Christie book to hit the big screen. Kenneth Branagh returns as our man Poirot to solve another murder mystery. He is the shining star of these movies. He's the bread and butter. He's why we go, and he fucking slays it again. The way he plays Poirot is just so affable and silly and greatly intense at the same time that it makes the movie so enjoyable. Because this is, in the beginning, this is another, we want to talk about, movies are too long these days. Every movie right now can have, I feel like I can't tell you the last time I saw a movie that didn't need 20 minutes shaved off of it. And this is one of those movies. It takes a while to get to the point where the actual murder mystery happens and then we're off at the races. It is a slow burn in the beginning. And it's not terrible. It definitely is interesting enough to keep you invested. And the visual effects and everything looks really great to keep you invested. But it still could use some trimming on there because it is a bit of a slog to get through in the beginning. But Poirot is in rare form as always. He is the fucking man. I love that he decided to open the movie with an origin story about his mustache. Absolute fucking phenomenal. That was hilarious to me. It was really great. And then once the murder mystery happens, and then he's off to the races, investigating people and trying to figure out everything and be the sleuth that we know him to be, the movie really sinks into high gear and is great. Like, he's just, Kenneth Branagh is a fantastic actor-director. I fucking love that man. Everything he does, I'm always invested in. I'd say the biggest down that I can give this movie, along with the fact that it takes a while to get going, is the idea that it's a bit predictable. I knew right from the bat who did it, and even if you don't pick it up that easy as it goes along, and he starts investigating and see all the other people, they don't do such a great job at making it seem like it could be any number of these people. Like, it seems it's pretty easy early on that, like, the lesbian communists aren't doing it. There's a lot of people on there, but not a lot of them have airtight reasons for doing the murder. Like, it's very clear up front, like, what it is and who's behind it. So that's the biggest down for me. Though it was nice to see Armie Hammer in a movie again. Yes, I am still an Armie Hammer fan. Despite the fact that everyone thinks he's a cannibal. What a world we fucking live in. But yeah, Death on the Nile, number two. But it should come as no surprise that number one is Jackass Forever. The ragtag bunch of animals are back, better than ever, and they are going for broke. These movies will always be funny to me. I grew up on Jackass. Jackass started, I think it was what, like 2000, 2001. So I was like, I was 10 or 11 when it started. So I was right in there watching that. Watched the show when it was on, watched all the movies in theaters. This is my childhood right here. And these guys will always be funny to me. Every time they put out a movie, it's like getting back together with old friends. They're just absolutely insane, those guys. Some of the stunts in this movie are absolutely insane. They are just some of the funniest guys on the face of the planet. I hope they keep making more. I know that it's hard for them to keep doing big stunts, but now that they have the younger guys in it to kind of come in and take over, perhaps they could be more legacy guys that are just there hanging around. Johnny Knoxville still be the leader, and they just do lower tier ones. Like, I could continue to watch. I don't need Johnny Knoxville getting hit by a bull anymore. Like, you've done it so many times, man. Like, take a bow. But what I do love and hope they continue to do is stuff like the Silence of the Lambs bit, where it's just like no one's even doing anything in Knoxville. He's just pulling pranks on people. And I could watch an entire Jackass movie of just Knoxville pulling pranks on his friends, because that's like some of the moments where the movie is at its best. And just watching those guys with each other, it's so great. It's easily one of the funniest movies I've seen in such a long time. It's great. That's a movie we were talking about before. Where I can't remember the last time I saw a movie that didn't need 20 minutes shaved off of it. Jackass Forever doesn't. If anything, it's short. It could use another 20 minutes. It could keep going. That's a movie that got in, got out, hit you with all the goods, knew exactly what you needed, and still leaving you wanting more, which is what a movie should do. It should leave you wanting more. Too many movies these days are approaching way too long, to the point where it's like by the time it ends, you're happy it's over because it's just been too long. Like, there's only certain movies that ever need to go over 2 hours and 20 minutes. And there's not a lot of them. Like, even I just saw yesterday for the third time in theaters, to take one of my friends who hasn't seen it, Spider-Man No Way Home. And I loved it the first time I saw it. And every subsequent time I've watched it after that, the first 20, 25 minutes of that movie needs to go. Until Doc Ock shows up, that movie is so painfully slow. It's one of those movies of diminishing returns. It's a movie that very relies heavily on your first time watching it of nostalgia, and is not holding up as much with each time I'm watching it. And I know some people, all you Marvel freaks out there, are going to think that's sacrilegious and are going to say, like, I don't know what I'm fucking talking about. And that's fine, man. If you think it's God's gift to Green Earth and every second of it is precious to you, all the more power to you. But from a screenwriting perspective, it's not. You don't need those first 20 minutes of that movie. And that's a theme for a lot of movies these days. Death on the Nile. You can cut out 20 minutes of that movie easily. Absolutely easy. Studio 666. That movie should only be 90 minutes. The fact that it was almost 2 hours is absurd. The Batman, I don't care how good it is. No superhero movie outside of Endgame needs to be 3 hours. And the only reason Endgame had to be is because it had to tie up 10 years and like 18 movies. It's ridiculous. And now we're getting the rumored runtime for Doctor Strange is 160 minutes. I'm sorry, but no Doctor Strange movie needs to be 160 minutes. It just doesn't. These movies are too long. And it needs to stop. Stop making long movies. Cut that shit out. And that's my list for the month of February. It was a pretty rough month. There wasn't that many great things to watch. They're just movies to watch that came out. So most of these movies I'll never really watch again. Death on the Nile, Jackass are the only like actually good movies that came out. But I don't even know if I'll watch Death on the Nile again anytime soon. Like, I'll easily watch Jackass Forever once it comes out on Blu-ray to pick up. But other than that, I don't really see myself watching any of these movies again for a long time. So, not a great month. Hopefully next month is better. Doesn't seem like it, because there's really only one big theatrical release for the whole month, and it's Batman. They put Turning Red on fucking Disney Plus, the bastards. I think the only other movie besides the Batman that looks interesting that's coming out in March is X. I'm super excited for that movie. That movie looks really fucking good. I'm honestly more excited for that movie than I am for the Batman. Not a big superhero fan, as if people haven't realized from watching these videos. So I'm super excited for X. I'm still really excited for Batman. I think it's going to be good. I just don't need 3 hours of Batman. And then at the end of March, there's The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. That looks like it's going to be good, like a solid rom-com right there. So I'm excited for those three movies in particular. But I'm going to be releasing a video later going through all the March releases and ranking what I'm most excited for and all the movies that are coming out for March, including streaming. So be on the lookout for that video. But until that time, you have been you. I have been this guy. These are the movies. And until next time, adventure on.